Hi, I'm Dr. Shirley Davis, and I am so thrilled and honored to have the opportunity to bring you this series called MEflections. I am here in the home of my longtime friend, speech coach, and the master motivator himself, Mr. Les Brown. He's welcomed me into his home, and we are going to have a conversation, very frank and transparent, about life, love, laughter, and legacy. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. Come on in and let's sit down together.
So the first question is, how did you guys meet?
We met on the cruise.
Yeah, on a TD Jakes cruise. Yes, Ona and I were on there. I'll never forget that cruise because Ona and I had a dispute on the stage before 3,000 people, and we were fighting over the microphone. And she finally snatched the microphone from me. I'll never forget that. An older lady said, I know what happened as I was watching that. And Ona asked her what? She said, the devil and Jesus are wrestling over the microphone, and Jesus won. So I said, I guess I was the devil, huh?
Yeah, I was coming out of the elevator, me and Mom, and you were in the elevator coming out, and you stopped me. And we just immediately talked. You said, you look familiar. And I said, yeah, I've seen you at a conference. I was, a year earlier, Miss America United States, and had given up my title and was on the cruise. Mom and I were just taking a vacation, and you were there, and we started talking, and after that you invited me to dinner at your table, and we were fast friends. And remember, we went to the island, we went to Bahamas, and went out to eat, and we just hung out the rest of the time.
Yeah, well, see, Dr. Shirley Davis, she has a presence and charisma. And there are people who come in a room, and there are people who enter the room. She enters the room. She's got it like that.
So that's how we met, and then ultimately Les invited me to one of his speaker trainings, and I'm so glad that that decision was one of the best decisions of my life, and it just transformed me in my thinking. It transformed my business. It transformed my future, and I didn't even know what was my future looking like. But as I obeyed that one step, another door opened. I obeyed that one and just kept obeying it, and Les has been coaching me ever since.
And I'm so glad that you gave me the honor of being able to be your coach in this space. But one of the things that I want to emphasize, I say to speakers, who you are behind the words that you speak, far more important than the words. And just, there was something about her, and even her life and her mission, her drive as a single parent, her goals when she was in corporate America. She was always a person who was working to move up. You know, they say it's lonely at the top, but you eat better.
You sleep better too.
Let the record show. And so this is a time where you want to identify people who have talents, abilities, skills, resources, and a positive energy about them, because you want to be around people that's going in your direction. So when I saw her, I like something that Oprah Winfrey says. She said, don't dress where you are, dress where you're going.
Where you going? Dress for the next level.
Ed Blunt said he dressed for impact. And so she just stood out. She has that presence and charisma. And charisma is something that you can't acquire. You can't train that. You either have it or you don't have it. She's got it like that. Yeah.
And so, Les, would you say that there is one common denominator amongst all successful speakers that you can immediately pinpoint?
One common denominator.
There is one common denominator among all speakers, and that is that they are driven by a sense of purpose and direction. And that's been something that, just observing Dr. Shirley Davis, that she has always had this larger vision of herself. She has always been a woman on a mission, going in the direction of her dream, answering the call on her life.
You know, it's interesting that Les says that, because there was a time in my life prior to meeting Les where I didn't feel a sense of purpose and I didn't have direction. But it was having a daughter and becoming a mom and having this innocent person rely on me, and being that mom to someone that I wanted to be proud of me, So that's when I started really looking at my life. You taught me that most people die at age 30, don't get buried to age 85. And I didn't want to be that. I didn't want to be 35 or 45 and her looking at me and I not be the best that I could be, so that she could then see an example and a role model. So by the time I found you, I found myself. But when I found you, you helped me to go deeper. You helped me to go broader and wider, and now global.
Les, is there a moment in your life that really just kind of made the difference for you in defining your purpose?
Yes, something that really hit me. I was with my mother on Miami Beach, my adopted mother. You know the journey.
Miss Mamie Brown.
Yes, Miss Mamie Brown. You know, Dorothy Bell Rucker, my birth mother, that I just discovered at 76. Yes, she gave me life, and Mamie Brown taught me how to live life.
That's right.
And she was working for this lady, and she asked her, this person who we were cleaning her home, she asked Mama to go in a room and find a hat for her that she was going to go out into the sun, and she wanted a particular hat. And my mother went in the room, and I heard my mother, she started clapping her hands. And I was curious. I said, Mama, why are you clapping your hands? She said, don't you worry about it, Leslie. You just continue to do what you're doing in the kitchen and scrubbing the spots off the floor. And then she came out after a while and said, hey, listen, I can't find it. The hat is not in there. And so this person said, well, go and look, Mamie, in the other room. And she did that. And she came back after a while and she said, Miss Harris, it's not in there. But what got me was when she went in the other room, she started clapping her hands again. And I said, Mama, why are you clapping her hands? And she said, didn't I tell you to pay attention to what you're doing? And then at that time, Miss Harris came over to me and she said, I can tell you why she's clapping her hands. And I asked her, I said, why, ma'am? She said, because when I have colored people, any workers working for me in a room doing something and I can't see them, I make them clap their hands to make sure that they're not stealing. I was shocked. I dropped the washcloth and I stood up and I looked her in the eyes. And during this time, black people were not allowed to look white people in the eyes. One of the parts of the culture to demean you, to dismiss you, and to demonize you and to destroy your sense of self and treat you less than. I said, my mother is not a thief. She wouldn't steal from you or anybody. My mother is a Christian, and when she talk about you and your children, she talk about my children. She referred to your children as her children.
Yeah. Wow.
She will never steal from you. And she just looked at me. She was shocked. I was looking her in the eyes, and I spoke with such conviction. And she walked out of the room. She didn't say anything. And I got back down on my knees, and I started scrubbing that floor. The water was mixed with soap and my tears. And I said, when I become a man, I'm going to take care of my mother, and she won't work for anybody. And nobody will ever make my mother begin to feel like she's a thief and make her clap her hands. And that was a point that it created a hunger for me to be independent. It created a hunger to find a way to take care of my mother. And I said to my mother that when I turn 18, I'm going to set you down. You will never pay another bill. I'm old school. I believe that man's responsibility is to provide and protect. That was a turning point, a hunger to make something of myself, a hunger to set my mother down so that she didn't have to work, a hunger to buy her a home, and I accomplished both those objectives.
And as we just heard, the story about that and your purpose and your defining moment, when did you know it was to be a massive, successful, motivational speaker?
I saw Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in Miami.
Okay.
And Malcolm X.
Enough said there.
And I admired their oratorical skills.
Yeah.
But before seeing them, the speech and drama teacher at Booker T. Washington High School, Mr. Leroy Washington, he was a person who taught me, he said there are three things that's very important in life. He says, number one, he said, develop your mind. And what he's saying that people don't live life as it is, they live life as they are. Number two, he said, be willing to learn. If you're not willing to learn, no one can help you. But if you're willing to learn, no one can stop you. And 3, which was major, he said, Mr. Brown, develop your communication skills, because once you open your mouth, you tell the world who you are. And so I took that to heart, and I admired his oratorical skills, and I wanted to be like him. And I didn't know that people made money because they could speak, and I used to go to motivational seminars and workshops. I was inspired to do that by him. And seeing Zig Ziglar and Dr. Norman Vincent Peale and Robert Schuller, I said, I could do that. But I didn't make the decision really to do it for 14 years because I felt, because I was labeled educable mental retarded when I was in the 5th grade and put back to the 4th grade, fell again at the 8th grade at Booker T. Washington High School, stayed in special education throughout school, and not having a college education, I didn't think, being practical, logical, and realistic, that I could do what I'm doing, and so I procrastinated and didn't believe in myself for 14 years.
You know, one of the things is we've been talking about, you know, our childhoods and talking about, you know, our children and what we've learned. The thing for me has been my faith. The faith in God, and yes, in God, then having faith in myself. And I can remember for me, and I was raised in the church. I had one of those parents that when you got home, I don't care if it was 2 or 3 o'clock Saturday night, you going to church Sunday morning. And so I didn't always know, or wasn't as committed to my faith until I got older and started going through stuff. And then you know how we always pray those prayers, God, if you just get me out of this.
Show me a sign.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I had that happen whenever I had my first heartbreak, and you know, going through a divorce, and then finding out I'm a single parent, and then seeing this little innocent, beautiful child looking up at me, and it's like, man, I feel this level of guilt because I'm not what I want to be. And so I remember praying that prayer, and this time I meant it. God, if you just get me out of this, I promise I won't get back into it. I was in overwhelming debt. I was in despair. I was, you know, just going through a divorce, so brokenhearted and hopeless, helpless, and just for me, didn't necessarily see how I was going to get out of it. And it was praying that gave me a sense of peace, but then ultimately making that decision for her as well as for myself that I'm going to do better. And so my faith has been strong ever since. And I can tell you through life, all the tests and the trials and the troubles I've faced, faith is at the end of all of that. And today I'm unapologetic about it. When I speak on stages, and I've seen you do the same thing too, I have to bring my full self, my most authentic self. And that includes my faith and being a woman of God. And I'm not apologetic about that. What about you?
Well, a lot of people, when they talk and speak about faith, they speak of it in a religious concept.
Yeah.
I'm not a religious person.
Yeah.
I'm a spiritual person.
That's right.
Religious people are afraid of going to hell. Spiritual people have been there.
I love that. Yes.
And the difference between what I do and what ministers do, they preach the gospel about Jesus. I preach the gospel that Jesus preached.
That's a difference.
Come on.
That's a difference.
Yes. And so different between selling the messenger and selling the message. But the other piece that's very important is that when I was diagnosed with 4th stage cancer, Dr. Alfred goes to this oncologist. He's since passed. He had a weird sense of humor. And he said, you have 4th stage cancer. I said, is there anything else? He said, it's metastasized to 7 areas of your body. And I started laughing. He said, why are you laughing? I said, man, 7 is my lucky number. And I'm one of 7 children. I was born February the 17th. Joshua marched around the walls of Jericho 7 times. Naaman dipped himself in the River Jordan 7 times. I said, 7 is my lucky number. And I asked him, is there anything else? He said, yes. And you're ugly too. I said, man, this is serious. He said, but you got this. You got this. Yeah. I never tell my patients they're terminally ill. What I say is, my knowledge and my ability to help you have terminated.
Wow.
Now it's in your hands, in God's hands. I determine the diagnosis. You determine the prognosis. And so I left there not with fear. A lot of people, they said fear is you forget everything and run. You forget your faith.
Yeah.
But faith is finding answers in the hard that I don't care what these statistics indicate. I don't allow these adversities to determine me.
Yeah.
Hell to me is when you die and you meet the person that you were supposed to become.
That's right.
That's hell. So faith,
Wow.
finding the answers in your heart. I'm going to get through this. When we did a training at the Rock Church in New York, and Donald Lawrence is there. And he said, there are going to be situations that you'll find yourself in, and that people will say, you are crazy to believe that you can overcome this. And he said, it might not make sense, but it makes faith.
It does make faith.
Yes, to call forth those things that be not as though they were. Yes, to stand strong and hold the vision. He said, I'll give you all your eyes can see. To discipline your mind and not allow yourself to be distracted by the adversities, and make a decision and a stand with your life that this is not going to define me. This will not break me.
You know, Les, you said something really powerful too. 7 being your number, right?
Yes.
7 being the number of completion, 8 being the number of new beginnings. But you are 77 years old.
Yes.
And you look as good as you did 21 years ago when I met you.
Oh,
I
thank
met you in 2001 because I had just given up my crown in 2001, and then we went on the cruise. You look just as good then as today as you did then. So faith has been good to you, and 20-something years later, you are not only a cancer survivor, but you're thriving in the midst of with your faith.
Yes, and because I believe man's faith in God is measured by his faith in himself.
Yeah.
When people were experiencing the miracles of Jesus and they were praising and complimenting him on their healing, he said, thy faith has made thee whole. Yeah.
Yes.
So because they believed,
Yes.
and he went to a place and he came back and he said many were not healed because they didn't believe.
Wow, that's powerful.
Even though he was there and he did the same thing for them as he did for others, but those who were in his presence, they didn't believe in themselves that's
so
going to help them. And so just think about when we speak, there's a certain number of people, a small number, that will do something with what we say.
That's right.
That's why we're taught that the road to life is straight and narrow, and few there be that find it, because few there be that are looking for it. Most people are spectators. Most people are fans. Most people are looking at life and want life to happen for them, as opposed to making the decision, as Toy would say, to make life work for them. They're being worked by life.
Absolutely. You know, when I open up my speeches now, having written the latest book called Living Beyond What If, how do you release the limits and realize your dreams? I dedicate that speech when I open it up. I said, this is dedicated to the 90%. The 90% of people who say if they had to live their life over again, they would do it differently. The 90% of people that when I ask them, do you really understand your why, and how many of you are living the best version of yourself? 90% of their hands don't go up. And you're absolutely right, and it's because they sometimes have allowed themselves to be derailed, sabotaged by their own mind, and not stepping outside of their mindset and walking into their greatness.
There's a book called Change or Die.
Change or Die.
By Alan Dushman.
Yeah.
And he did a study, a cardiology department on hospital, and they found that 9 out of 10 people would rather die than change.
Wow. Only wet babies like change, huh? Only wet babies like change.
Well, you know, I one of the things I say about politicians, they're like newborn babies. They need to be changed off.
Changed off, and term limits, right?
Not term limits. You'll find out. You'll think about it. Delayed in life and all that.
They need to change. Yes.
Okay, but here's the point that I'm making. Is that you have to work it. Nothing works unless you work. A friend of mine, he said he wanted to become a speaker, and I had training. He didn't show up, and then he said, "Man, I sure like to do what you do, And I said, why didn't you show up? Oh, some other things came up and it got in the way. I said, well, success is not convenient.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not going to accommodate you. You got to make room for it.
Absolutely.
And so he was seriously not serious. That's most people. But Jesus said, all power is in my hands. Oh, by the way, the poor will always be among you. Most people are volunteer victims, as you said earlier. They die unlived lives. And so your goal, Toy's goal, and the people that are watching us, operating out of the thinking of our brother who's on the other side watching us now, Miles Monroe, we're grave robbers. We're robbing the cemetery.
That's right.
Of the genius, the talents, the books, the voices, the stories, the abilities, the inventions of people who are living now and have so much in them and are willing to put the focus, the energy, and the time into developing themselves, because at the end of the day, we're all the same, dumb, naked, and speechless. We can change our lives. Nobody comes here knowing anything. Nobody come here talking. Nobody come here with clothes on.
That's the truth.
And so what we have, I remember spending a full day with Maya Angelou, and she said that it aggravates me when people say I'm a gifted communicator. She said, show me a gifted heart surgeon.
That's right.
She said they were trained.
Wow.
I was trained to speak the way that I speak, to write the way that I write.
That's awesome.